Today's moment of truth is going to be very different, not merely because it's posting far later than usual, but also because of the subject matter. We need to talk about what's been happening the last few days. Starting with, though not entirely, about YouTube's attack on the channel. Now, there's something that we, the new voices of black media, especially those of us who have been out here a long while, know all too well. YouTube attacks our channels. The people who run YouTube do not like the new voices of black media. They definitely don't like anyone calling out white supremacy. They don't like anybody who promotes or pushes the idea of black empowerment. And it's been this way since the very beginning. Now, when YouTube carries out these attacks where they just decide, okay, we're going to be shutting this channel down or otherwise locking the account or what have you, they tend to do it during the summer and the winter months. That's usually when they carry out these attacks. My channel in particular has been attacked twice just in the last 6 months alone. And there are others that have been taken down altogether. A lot of you have said that, gee, Professor Truth, your YouTube channel ought to be much bigger than it is. And whenever people have said that, and I've been hearing this for a decade and a half, whenever they say that, I usually respond with, no, my channel's actually about the right size. And do you want to know why that is? It's for two reasons. First of all, as you just saw in the last few days, 2 times in the last 6 months, you've seen why after 15 years my presence is no larger on YouTube than it is. Because for 15 years my channels have been under constant attack by white supremacy. And it's the people who run YouTube who have been largely leading the charge. They single out black voices. Why? Not because we violate any community guidelines, but because when you attack white supremacy, that makes a number of employees at YouTube mad. This has been going on for 15 years. This is done to ensure that black media never rises above a certain level. The white supremacists like Steven Crowder and others are allowed to say whatever racist sewage they want, and YouTube says it doesn't violate any of their so-called community guidelines. People who mock the murder of George Floyd, they're never removed on the grounds of targeting victims of a violent event. Nobody ever sits there and says, well, that's hate speech. Nobody ever does that to them. YouTube doesn't do that to them. So YouTube's making it clear that white supremacists are a protected group on this website. And that tells you everything you need to know about the people who run this website. And that brings me to the second reason why my channel is no bigger than it is. Because it's not supposed to be. I don't do this as entertainment, but that's what most people come to places like this for. What I do started out 15 years ago as a witness and a warning. And now that white supremacists are on the march and the onslaught has begun, what I and others had warned you was coming is now underway, so I've gone from warning to advocacy. Last summer, my channel was attacked because I posted a video about Will Smith being out of line for attacking Chris Rock at the Oscars. YouTube fraudulently placed a strike on the channel using the blatantly phony grounds that it was cyberbullying and harassment. So they accused my channel of cyberbullying or harassing Will Smith. Now that's impossible on its face. Will Smith is a public figure. You can't cyberbully a public figure unless, of course, YouTube is also going to be attacking any and all videos, especially from these white media outlets talking about Will Smith and the Oscars slap. Because apparently if my talking about it constitutes cyberbullying, then everybody's does, has to. Now, regardless of how you feel about the Will Smith Oscar fiasco, and I know that opinions here run the gamut, and that's fine, but what we should all be in agreement about is that it's impossible to cyberbully Will Smith. He's a public figure, and people have opinions about public figures. That's just the way it works. Now, you'll recall that I appealed that fraudulent strike, and as I posted on my Twitter, YouTube originally sent me an email saying that the strike was an error and that they would remove it. But then, only 42 minutes later, I got a second email saying that the strike was valid all of a sudden, and that it wouldn't be removed. So clearly what's happening to my channel isn't about community guidelines at all. There's a group of employees at YouTube who think it's their job to attack the new voices of black media, especially the thought leaders of this movement. When someone says that calling Will Smith out for slapping Chris Rock is cyberbullying, that's how you know the I'm white and I say so rule is in full effect at YouTube. Now, as odious, malicious, and corrupt as that is, the problem is it's not new. It's par for the course here. And it was the entire reason that I set up a Twitter account. And just to make sure that everyone understood why I had done it, the same day I started my Twitter account, I pinned my first tweet to the board saying, if anything happens to my YouTube channel, this will be the rally point. I guess I should have said when, but you get the point. YouTube will do everything they can to disrupt us. So when they do, you should go to the Twitter account so you can find out what's going on and not miss out on any content. You know full well that I am not going to be missing any sort of postings. I do the stuff religiously, not missing anything. So if any posts get missed, you're supposed to immediately go, let me go to that Twitter. In fact, you should be checking in regularly there just to stay up to date. Now, I set up my Twitter account 6 years ago. So that's how long people have been regularly seeing the message that if anything happens where you don't see me posting on YouTube, you should go to Twitter and find out what's happening. Now, after YouTube locked my account following my Will Smith video, what happened was I saw a bunch of messages from people, many of them who had been following me for years, asking, "Where's the professor at?" My videos all have my Twitter account listed, not just on the screen, but also a link in the description. So why didn't it occur to any of those people to check there? There's no excuse for that. Black people are not stupid, but the problem is, all too often, a number of us do things that make us look dumb. Okay, well, that was 6 months ago during the summer. And since practically all of you were subscribed to me then, you'll recall that after the 7-day lockout of my account lifted, I told everyone what to do. Once again, I reminded everybody what to do to ensure that you never miss any content or have to ask, "Where's Professor Truth at?" Simply follow me on Twitter. That's it. I put the link in the description of all my videos, and I put it on the opening and closing graphics of all my videos. You can't miss it. Unfortunately, after I did that, in came the excuses from people splaining why that was just too much to ask. You have people who apparently feel that going to Twitter is just something that they're simply physically unable to do. Many tried to claim that, I ain't got a Twitter account. Well, you'll be glad to know that you don't need one just to see someone's Twitter timeline. You can see Twitter posts without even having an account. All you got to do is go into Google and then put the person's name in there along with the word Twitter, and their timeline shows up in the results. So you can read Twitter timelines without having an account. The only thing you can't do is post anything. And I start to think that maybe that's why I get so many of these people who complain about, I don't think I can follow you on Twitter. It's because they're more interested in posting their own comments than they are with any particular content. Now, I had hoped that after the debacle in the summer, people would finally be on the same page as to what to do because I had told them. Now, after this past week, what I saw was many of you are, and I'm grateful for that. Though it needs to be said, these were mostly people who were already with the program to begin with, but a lot of people are not. And yet, for some people, not all, but enough, thank you, Mr. Harvey, posting the URL on every video and putting a link in the description of every video apparently wasn't explicit enough. I still saw people this last week posting, "Where's Professor Truth? Is he on a break?" Really? If you were one of those people, please unsubscribe from me. If it never occurred to you that when someone posts multiple social media links, that if you can't find them at one place, perhaps you can find them at the other one, if that's simply too baffling for you to figure out, then unsubscribe. You're more trouble than you're worth. And if you're too lazy to click a Twitter link, then there's no hope for you. There's 3 types of people who are still asking that kind of question at this late date. The people who are brand new to YouTube, and that's only a handful. The people who are too stupid to wonder if the Twitter link I post on every single one of my videos might give them more information on what I'm doing. And the lazy whose brains don't have enough cells for them to even have common sense. I don't post my Twitter URL because I'm trying to build a Twitter following. I do it so that the people who honestly want to get the content I deliver will always be in the loop and never miss out. I do it as a fail-safe. I do it as a redundancy. The people who follow me on Twitter, they never have to ask where I'm at. I took some time off during late summer, but I told you weeks in advance that I wouldn't be posting. Nobody can say, "Where's the professor? Is he on a break?" A genius. I would not ever just decide to stop posting without letting people know well in advance. Don't be looking for any new content for this amount of time. At least no videos anyway, though I did put up 1 or 2 tweets just to keep the home fires burning. If YouTube's messing with my channel, which they always are, then you can go to my Twitter and find out exactly what's going on and where the videos are posted in the meanwhile. The folks who follow me on Twitter knew exactly what had happened moments after it occurred. They knew the very minute that YouTube started messing with my account because I was posting there and they were seeing it. And they got the content without missing a beat. They still got their moment of truth. Hey, you need your Professor Truth fix, you can get it without skipping a beat. You'll always have the links posted there. And the same goes for my people on Patreon. They were also in the loop and didn't miss out on anything. Now, unfortunately, I can't do that with Cash App or PayPal because they don't allow users to post messages to the people who follow them. And I will say that fortunately, a lot of people did pay attention, so at least all of that nonsense from the summer that YouTube pulled, at the very least, resulted in more people than before, getting the memo. These are the people I want to keep in my circle. Because these are the people who make the task of facilitating and promoting the message of Black empowerment easier and not harder. I'm not trying to drag anyone to Black empowerment. If I have to keep repeating the same old information over and over and over again to someone, it's not that I haven't said it enough times. It's that we have people here who don't listen, and that means they shouldn't be here in the first place. Let me repeat that. Because for those of you who weren't paying attention when I posted links every day, I'm sure you're going to hear this, and I'll bet that I only have to say it once for it to get through. The hood rats, the dusty dudes, the bushikas, the couch-riding morons, and the lazy good-for-nothings who are just looking to be entertained, you never should have been here in the first place, and I don't want you here. You can unsubscribe, or wait to be blocked. This isn't the place for you. And for those who are that type of person, I want you to hear it directly from me. If you're someone who actually had to ask at this late date, where's Professor Truth? Then you don't belong here. And I hope the people that this applies to don't like hearing that. There's a reason why we as a people are in the condition we're in. The large part of it is white supremacy. That's the truth. But the other part is that we have a lot of dysfunctional people around us, and we got to cut them loose. A lot of Black people are simply not ready for liberation and don't deserve to have it. You can't claim to be part of intelligent Black society if you're too lazy to click a link, or your brain never tells you that if someone posts an alternate social media account in front of you every single day, then if you don't see them for a couple of days, maybe you ought to go visit that link just to see if there's any additional information there. I guess this is why when I posted my videos about Black men starting our own intelligence agency, a lot of viewers discounted that idea right off the bat. I'm better understanding now why I saw so many comments telling me that it's impossible or otherwise not feasible. Forget about sneaking their way into some white supremacist organization. These people are too obtuse to use common sense. A lot of Black people say that they understand we're in a war, but you can tell the difference between the ones who honestly think that and the ones who don't. In war, you don't have the luxury of repeating instructions over and over and over, and people don't have the luxury of expecting that someone who has already said something 1,000 times, who has posted it regularly so it's the first thing you see, will then personally spoon-feed the same message to some slackers who will post a comment asking a pointless question, but who apparently can't type a social media link, or worse, can't even move their finger on a mouse to click on a link. That's some next level lazy when someone's so shiftless that instead of taking half a second to click a link or to type in a URL to a Twitter page, instead they decide to post a comment and wait to see if someone's going to bring them the answer. It seems for some people that's just too much work. Everyone who comes here says they know of people who have been attacked on YouTube, who YouTube has had their channel suspended, or that it's happened to them personally. So when someone doesn't post, especially if it's somebody who you're used to having post from 6 days a week, but a few days goes by and they haven't posted, doesn't it make sense that maybe the reason they're not posting is because YouTube locked their account? I guess for some people that's just not obvious enough, regardless of their personal experience of the website. And these are the same people who we see when we ask them how smart or diligent or hardworking they are. They'll tell you they're the smartest, most diligent, hardest working people in the room. And I know this is going to rub some people hearing it the wrong way, and that's good. That's the entire point. If you're angry at hearing this, that's because you know it's talking about you. If you're one of the people who comes to this place because you're looking for politically oriented entertainment, you need to keep on looking because you haven't found it. Let me make this very clear to the "Where's Professor Truth?" crowd. I don't want people around who can't be bothered to pay a lick of attention to anything. What are you good for? What can we do with someone like you? As Khalid Muhammad said, a Negro like that isn't taking us anywhere. So once again, make sure you follow me on Twitter. Not because I'm trying to build some big Twitter following. I don't even post regularly on Twitter. I do it because Twitter is a rallying point. It's a place where you can reliably go to find out what's happening, just in case you don't see me post in a while. And if you see someone who asks, "Where's the professor at?" be sure to tear them a new one. We as a group need to establish a zero-tolerance policy for lazy people. You know, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing talked about that a lot of black people are utterly oblivious to the world around them. A lot of black people are practically walking around in a daze full time, clueless. And that this is why whenever you meet a black person, more often than not, the first thing that black person tends to say is, "What's going on?" Now, of course, most black folks mean that as a greeting, but as Dr. Cress Welsing explained, because her field is psychology, she explained that it's also an expression of their deep mental state. She said that black people need to start waking up to the world around us and understanding the sick system that we live under and get realistic about ways to fight it. That way we won't have to constantly be asking, "What's going on?" See how that works? Why does all this matter? Well, family, you need to see the situation from the perspective of the people who bring you the content that you watch. When people like myself and TBA and Tariq and Tarian and Vicky Dillard and Your World and Lisa Cabrera and Philip Scott and others, when we say black media, we're not talking about ourselves. We're talking about you. For 15 years, I've told you that you are the prize that black advocates like myself and these white supremacists, along with their boot-licking minions, are fighting over. This is about you. This is a power struggle to see who will influence the black masses, who will influence you. White supremacy has long known that it's got the rest of the society under complete control. There's a lot of folks who've already signed on to the devil's bargain of white supremacy. But what they also know is that there is still this contingent in the society, a bunch of free radicals, if you will, who have the ability to bring it all down. That's you. The situation can go either way. That's the lesson of the reparations war that's going on right now. If the black masses focus and act like we're at war, then we're unstoppable. On the other hand, if the black masses decide to be lazy and casual, then we will become casualties. The white media's job is to lie to you, tell you everything's just fine, or at the very least things are getting better, so you don't need to do anything. And that way they can lull you into a false sense of security. They'll tell you everything's getting better all the time, right up until the moment that you're being thrown out in the streets or you're being killed. Because that's their job, to control you through disinformation. The enemy is disciplined. Look at what happened when these white supremacists saw YouTube or anyone else trying to disrupt them. They went and set up alternate websites and alternate places, even alternate payment methods for themselves and their fellow racists to flock to. Now, sure, they have resources, but that's not the totality of why they were able to pull it off and able to create these alternate places for white supremacy to fester. You can have the most expensive, fanciest website ever made, but if people decide that they're not going to go there, then it's useless. And they don't have to say it a million times. When these white supremacists set up something or go on the move or say we're migrating to such and such a place, they ain't got to repeat it endlessly. A few times is usually enough. And nobody's acting clueless and asking, "Hey, where's so-and-so white supremacist at?" Or "How do we find them?" The white supremacists don't look at the anti-black racism they carry out as being entertainment. They see it as a war to wipe out the only thing that can end white privilege. We got to be bluntly honest. If there's one major difference between these racists and the black grassroots, it's this. More of them actually see themselves as being in a war. Yes, a lot of us do, but not enough. That has to change, and fast. Anyone who wants to be here has to stay sharp. It is the actions and reactions of you, the recipients of this information, that matters most. That may seem counterintuitive, but it's not. What you do is far more important than anything I or any other new voice of black media can say. We will win or lose based entirely on your discipline. And as I told you, the definition of discipline according to the U.S. Army is the willingness to put the goals of the organization ahead of your own personal desires. People who are lazy, immature, or simply looking to be entertained can't do that. And we can't afford to have them around. We don't have the luxury of time to drag everyone to black empowerment. We don't have the luxury of time to drag anyone to it. When you have these racists doing whatever they can to disrupt our program, nobody's going to keep circling back to retell people information that they've already been told every single day. When you show that you can receive instructions and get it the first time without having to be told repeatedly, what you're saying is you're disciplined. that you truly believe you're in an existential struggle with evil and that you take it seriously. Last summer was supposed to be a wake-up call for the people who are new here or who haven't followed me that long, which is pretty much the same thing. So the next time someone gets ready to post an inane comment asking, "Where's the professor at?" or "I wonder if he's on a break," stop, think, and read. Then you won't have to ask. We know that we're using platforms owned and controlled by white supremacy. The problem is, this is where the people are at. A lot of you are on Twitter, probably most. But when YouTube blocked me from posting, how many people went there, if only to see what might be going on? I mention that because I hear constantly that we should migrate to another website altogether. I agree, that's all well and good, but we have to be realistic here. Most of us already have Twitter accounts. It's not some unknown website. But look how difficult it was to get people to go there just this week. Remember, what you do as the listenership is far more important than what people like myself do as mere mouthpieces. White supremacy is our biggest enemy. Don't you ever go getting confused on that. But the second biggest enemy is the internal dysfunction and laziness that too many of us have chosen to practice. Well, we don't practice dysfunction around here. Black empowerment is better than that. I guess the question that some of us need to ask ourselves is, are we better than that? Good day, and be one.